A man won a race on Saturday. He was dead by Thursday, not in a crash, not on the track, in a hospital room from pneumonia, a disease most people ride out at home. Kyle Busch was 41 years old, physically elite, still actively competing at the top level of NASCAR. And within 72 hours of checking into a hospital, he was gone. Nobody saw this coming. Nobody had time to prepare. And right now, an entire sport is sitting with that kind of grief that has no warning label on it. And the people who competed against him, who feuded with him, who finished second to him more times than they'd like to admit, they're the first ones speaking up. That tells you everything. Here's what we know. Kyle Busch passed away Thursday at 41 years old. The cause was severe pneumonia that progressed into sepsis, a systemic infection that can overwhelm the body with terrifying speed. Just 1 week before his death, he was behind the wheel competing in a Truck Series race, and he won it. Nobody saw anything coming, not his family, not the garage, not the sport. The Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte Motor Speedway is set for this weekend, and all of NASCAR will carry this loss into one of the biggest events on the calendar. To understand why this hit differently, you have to understand who Kyle Busch was inside that sport. He wasn't universally loved, and he never tried to be. He was loud, he was confident, and he had the receipts to back it up. 2 Cup Series championships, wins across all 3 NASCAR National Series. The man won in trucks, won in Xfinity, won on the big stage. He was a generational talent wrapped in a personality that made half the fan base root against him every single Sunday. That polarizing image, that was the product. That was the theater. NASCAR thrives on heroes and villains, and Busch played his role without apology. He gave the sport conflict, drama, and more than almost anyone of his era, he gave it excellence. Losing him now, at a moment when he was still actively competing, still winning, still relevant. That's not just a tragedy for his family. It's a crater in the middle of a sport that doesn't have another Kyle Busch waiting in the wings. Danica Patrick said something in her tribute that cut straight to the core of what made Busch different. She talked about what separates good drivers from elite ones, that altered state of focus, that ability to flip a switch and enter a zone most competitors can't access consistently. Patrick made it clear that in her mind, Busch was the best in the sport at getting there, not occasionally, repeatedly, race after race, year after year. That kind of mental consistency, the ability to block out everything and operate at peak performance under maximum pressure, is the rarest commodity in motorsport. You can coach racecraft. You can develop a driver's technical instincts. You cannot manufacture that psychological gear. And here's the deeper layer of this. Chase Elliott is now calling for Busch to win the Most Popular Driver award. Brad Keselowski, who had one of the most intense rivalries of his career with Busch, is pushing for an immediate Hall of Fame induction. Think about what that means. These aren't teammates offering polite condolences. These are competitors. Men who battled Busch on the track, who traded paint and exchanged words, who wanted to beat him as badly as they wanted to beat anyone. And they're the ones saying he deserves every honor NASCAR can give. That's not politics. That's respect that was always there, finally being said out loud. The Hall of Fame argument, by the way, is not even a debate on merit alone. Busch belongs. The only question was always timing. That question just became irrelevant. Here's the thing about a polarizing athlete dying young: it forces people to reconcile who they thought that person was versus who they actually were. The fans who spent years booing Busch at tracks across the country are now grieving alongside the fans who adored him. The chants are silent. The banner is done. What's left is just the record, and the record is extraordinary. The outpouring from the NASCAR community has been immediate and genuine. No measured statements, no PR boilerplate. Drivers and figures from across the sport are showing up and saying exactly what they feel. That kind of unfiltered response doesn't happen unless someone truly mattered to the people around them. And for longtime fans of the sport, the people who watched Busch carve his way through a generation of competition, this feels like losing a pillar. Something that was always there, that you took for granted being there and now isn't. NASCAR uses this moment to properly cement Busch's legacy. He gets the Hall of Fame induction. He wins the Most Popular Driver vote through a genuine fan campaign. The sport honors him at the Coca-Cola 600 with a tribute that reflects the magnitude of who he was. Not just a moment of silence, but a real acknowledgement of 2 decades of irreplaceable contributions. His story becomes the fuel that inspires the next generation of drivers who don't fit the mold, who refuse to be anything other than themselves. The tributes fade within a few weeks, the Hall of Fame vote stalls and procedural hesitation, and the sport moves on faster than it should. NASCAR has not always been great at honoring its own history, and there is a real risk that the institutional momentum to properly enshrine Busch gets lost in the noise of a competitive season. His family is left with the knowledge that the sport didn't do enough, and that failure would be hard to forgive. Kyle Busch spent his entire career making you feel something. If it wasn't admiration, it was frustration. If it wasn't excitement, it was fury. But indifference? Never. You could not watch Kyle Busch race and feel nothing. That is the definition of a force of nature. And now the sport has to figure out who it is without him still in it. So here's the question I want to leave you with, and I genuinely want to see this debate in the comments. Is Kyle Busch the greatest NASCAR driver of his generation? And does the way the sport honors him over the next few weeks tell us something real about what NASCAR actually values? Drop your take below. If you're new here and this kind of analysis is what you came for, the subscribe button is right there. We'll be covering the Coca-Cola 600 and everything that follows. Don't miss it.